Welcome back to Takeout. We here have spent a lot of time focused on New Mexico and the Epstein files because there's a lot of talk in Washington, but New Mexico is actually trying to figure things out to see if there's anything that's still prosecutable in this matter. And today it sued the Trump administration to obtain unredacted access to the Epstein files that have not been publicly disclosed. The state's Attorney General, Raúl Torrez, says Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General and nominee to become full Attorney General, and the Justice Department, his word, stonewalling his investigation into Epstein and the focus there in New Mexico on Zorro Ranch, property just outside of Santa Fe. I want to welcome back New Mexico's Attorney General Raúl Torrez. So what is the nature of this lawsuit? What do you want? And why did you file it?
So, Major, it's been 173 days since we first asked for unrestricted and unredacted access to the complete Epstein files. We've made no fewer than 10 separate attempts, both at Main Justice, the Southern District of New York, even here in the District of New Mexico. And all we have received from the Department of Justice, despite public assurances of cooperation, is stonewalling and obstruction. And so fundamentally, we're asking for a district court judge to order the United States Department of Justice to grant us this access so that we can advance our ongoing criminal investigation into Jeffrey Epstein's conduct here in Zorro Ranch.
What do you believe is there that's relevant to the ranch and your investigation? For example, how many times do you think it's mentioned?
So we know from what is publicly available that Zorro Ranch is referenced over 13,000 times in the publicly available files that have been submitted and made available under the Epstein Transparency Act. The problem is that most of those records are either completely redacted or partially redacted. And so we are concerned that we won't be able to identify potential co-conspirators, witnesses, corroborating information, or any leads that may advance this investigation and bring us to a place where we might still be able to bring a prosecutable case here in the state of New Mexico.
When you talk to survivors, what do they believe that can be found there, and what leads do they believe can and should be pursued relevant specifically to Zorro Ranch?
Yeah, I've been very cautious with survivors because, I don't want to set expectations too high. They've been through too much and too much disappointment all these years. But one of the things that I know has frustrated them, including in DOJ's response today, DOJ responded to the lawsuit by saying that they can't turn this information over because they have to protect the privacy rights and interests of survivors. The survivors just put out a statement that says that's laughable, and it really is a disgraceful excuse to try and hide behind the privacy rights of survivors and use that as an excuse to not cooperate with our investigation. They know that we are working towards the possibility of building a case that is still viable and prosecutable. That's what they want. That's our commitment to them. And the longer we wait and delay from the Department of Justice, the more we are set back in terms of reaching that goal.
Mr. Attorney General, are you edging toward more strident language than non-cooperative?
Well, look, I'm a former federal prosecutor here in the state. What I can tell you is that the way that this has been handled from the beginning is disgraceful. It is not in keeping with the norms and traditions and the normal practice. I think there is a cover-up to a certain extent that has been animated by the administration for reasons that I fully don't know the motivation or the rationale. I think they would all be much better off if they just, made it all transparent, made it available, cooperated with our investigation. I think it leads to a lack of trust, not only on the part of survivors, but on the part of the general public, that they have something to hide. But it really undermines faith and confidence in our judicial system, in our justice system, that we're going to be able to do this in a professional and competent and transparent manner.
Before I let you go, Mr. Attorney General, you said you do not want to set elevated expectations. You're not telling my audience that if you get access to this information, bang, there's going to be a prosecution.
No, I don't. As a prosecutor, we don't say that in any case, under any circumstances, because I've been doing this work far too long. What I do know is that there's relevant information that would be helpful for my investigators and my prosecutors, both to advance existing theories and ideas about how we might bring a prosecutable case, but we won't know that until we test that evidence, until we see that evidence. And so it's essential for people to understand that gaining access to this is necessary, but it doesn't guarantee that there's going to be a prosecution. But what I can tell you is that we can't complete this work if we don't have the cooperation of federal law enforcement agencies and the acting Attorney General of the United States.
New Mexico Attorney General Raúl Torrez. Mr. Attorney General, pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.